Today I decided to raise the table because I'm standing, and normally when I'm standing I'm a bit more dynamic, and we need today a lot of dynamism because we're in the test server and we're about to show you everything that's coming technically today. I mean, it's a bit weird that they just share the information and then straight away the patches in the game, but basically all the collab with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is coming, and today I'm gonna show you everything that's coming, all the champions, all the skills. Let's have a look at it. Hi, Senda here and welcome to another raid video. This last couple of days has been super hectic, a lot of information, a lot of snippets, leaks over here, info decks, is it collab, is it not a collab, it's mysterious name for the collab, and we know that is the Teenage Mutant Turtles. You know what I mean. We all knew what it was unfortunately leaked, there was no surprise elements, even though it was still a surprise element, and we have today in our power a similar deck than the one I showed you yesterday. Yesterday seemed to be like the short version. Today we have the long version, but because the embargo to show you that deck and to show you the things inside the test server is exactly the same, I decided to show you the things inside the game because it's always better and nicer to see the things live, how are they gonna look, all the stats of the champions, try the new little things that are up and down, and see all 6 brand new champions that are coming with this collab. So first of all, we're in the test server. As you can see, there is a new, and I'm gonna show you, there is a new login screen, which is pretty cool, like obviously themed after the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm gonna call them Ninja Turtles from now on. Here is the typical Plarium starting, and you can see the image change. This is probably gonna be like this until November, which is when this collab ends. Let me just quickly double check it. Until the 13th of November, confirmation. So we're gonna be having this until November, and I guess the last month and a half of the year is going to be, you know, bits and bobs, something new, else something big is coming at the end of the year. But until now, we have Ninja Turtles. First of all, we have, and we can see it in game, this Michelangelo Chase. And again, not new news, because we already saw a leak. We knew this guy was going to be the free champion, but it's going to work exactly in the same way and manner as it happened with Loki, as it happened with Alice, as it happened with Skeletor, as it happened with Lemnisci the Golden Wing, exactly the same. The first week you get the champion, and then you get the 2 souls, and on the second phase, the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th soul, which is a pretty good thing, because it allows us to have a pretty powerful champion in a completely free manner. So kudos over here, champion for free, legendary champion for everyone. It's always good news. Then we're gonna start a couple of minor things. I think there is one of these new badges, which is this one here, Pizza Time, which basically we're gonna get it if we manage to get all the Ninja Turtle themed champions before the event ends. There is a caveat with that, and I am sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but this collab is going to be more in the same way as it was with Monster Hunter. We're going to have these champions for this month, and when the event ends, so like I said, 13th of November, after this ends, the champions are never going to be available to get anymore. You're going to get them in your account, of course they're not going to disappear from there, but we're not going to be able to get any of these in any other way or form, which is pretty sad, because the champions look pretty cool, look pretty interesting, and there's a lot of things to do with them and synergies and so on. But if you get them, if you want to get them, now is the time to do it during this period of time, because then they're not going to be available. So keep your eyes open, keep your wallets open also, because if you want them, this is the time to get. And also there is a couple of minor things which I don't think I have here, but there's also, I'm not sure this one and this one were included, but there will be 1 or 2 new avatar frames as well. Less important, probably they will be available through some sort of event or something like that, but there you go. Then Six champions. There's been a lot of speculation. A lot of people thought the sixth champion, because we had the four turtles, we had Shredder as the antagonist, and then there was another champion there that could be possible. Who is going to be? Is it going to be April O'Neil? Is it going to be Splinter? Is it going to be one of the other antagonists or bad guys that are in the franchise? And sadly, it's not Splinter. They're going to be adding April O'Neil as the sixth champion, which we have here. It's a support type of champion. We're going to see her a bit more in detail, but it's a pretty interesting one. And she brings in the game new mechanics, new debuffs that are going to be playing all together, even though she's a bit more external than the four turtles. Like the four turtles is like one pack, then we have Shredder, and then we have April. So they're going to be different. Again, she's also part of the teenage of the Ninja Turtles, and when the thing ends, we're not going to be able to get her anywhere. Then let's start from the beginning. Bannerlords. Let's start from the champion that we're all gonna get for free. And we did see already the skills. If you had a look at the leaks, the skills were more or less explaining a bit the kit of the champion. No, don't worry, you're gonna have a full-on guide on this channel, how to gear him, how to use him, best sets, and so on. The same on the website, sendaplays.com, is built in Spanish, but you can change the language and see the whole webpage in English. There is an option to change the language, so you see all everything handwritten by me with images from the champions and everything. You're gonna have it there. So that's sendaplays.com, and this is the champion that you're gonna get for free. Starting with an A1, attacks an enemy 2 times. If either hit is critical, it places an increased attack on himself for 2 turns. So he's gonna be just boosting his attack. On the A2, attacks one enemy before attacking 75% chance of decreased defense. So this is good because it's gonna increase our damage. And 75% chance of placing a stun for 1 turn. Will ignore 25% of the target's resistance if the attack is critical. Okay. And then, probably the cherry on the top, applies a debuff spread effect, taking all the debuffs from the target and placing them on all the enemies, and will ignore 25% of each target's resistance if the initial attack was critical. So basically, the order of events is we apply decreased defense, then we attack the enemy, then we place the stun, and then we do this debuff spread. Which, for what I understand, we probably can spread to all the enemies, decrease defense and stun, essentially making the enemies lose a turn because they're all stunned. So, pretty interesting skill, mainly for waves, mainly for arena. I don't see this in any other place. Well, we're gonna see it on the A3 because, yeah, it's usable in other places. Which is the A3. It takes us to the A3, attacks all enemies, 75% of placing a decreased attack on the enemy, and a leech for 2 turns, and will ignore 25% of each target's resistance if the attack is critical. So we need already 2 things. Accuracy, even though we don't need so many because all his kit is ignoring 25% of the enemy's resistance, so we don't need to go super crazy on accuracy. And also critical. We need to have 100% chance of crit rate. For late game accounts, for people that already know how to play, it's easier to get crit rate, putting this guy some crit damage gloves with crit chance substat, and also a lot of crit chance substat in all the rest of the items in order to get to 100% of crit rate. But if you're in early game, you don't have this kind of gear yet, it's not a terrible idea to put a critical rate glove. It's not the optimal, but your main priority is going to be getting the 100% of the crit rate, getting accuracy, getting attack, and then as much crit damage as you can stack. And on top of the rest, he places a taunt on himself for 2 turns, which is a bit strange, having attack-based champions to place taunt on himself, because normally you don't want, you want to protect these kind of champions because they don't have too much health, they don't have too much defense, so they're not as tanky as other champions, but it has certain synergy with the A3, and it says that has a 15% chance to evade an enemy's skill and all of its accompanying effects if this champion is under a taunt, but the chance of evade increases to 30%. Sorry, I read it wrong. If this champion is under a taunt, which is he's able to do it himself, the chance of evading this hit is 30%. Whenever Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, or Raphael, so any other of the turtles, attacks, this champion joins in that attack. And as an active effect, places a shield equal to 300 of this champion's attack on this champion for 1 turn when they receive a hit. I'm not entirely sure when does this happen. If it's like, if I'm gonna receive a hit then I place the buff, and then this shield, what it's gonna do is gonna mitigate some of that incoming damage, or if it's gonna be the other way around. First I get hit, and after the hit I get a shield to prevent damage on the next hit. I'm not entirely sure how is this gonna work. Probably something tells me that is the second part, that we're gonna need to be able to tank at least 1 hit, but we'll see. And then accuracy aura in all battles by 70. So not the best champion, but definitely interesting. And we're gonna see that things get more and more interesting the more turtles we add to the mix. So this is gonna be the champion that's gonna be free. Everyone is gonna get him. We have 3 pretty interesting debuffs for Hydra, like decrease attack, leech, decrease defense. Hydra is immune to stun, but if we start combining turtles, things are gonna start getting interesting. So this is the champion that we're all gonna get, Mikey Michelangelo. Then Sacred Order, we go to April O'Neil. And this is an interesting one. She's a support type of champion, but she's a wave controller, or like a single target controller that has a lot of random cool things. In terms of stats, it's not bad. It's a support type champion, so it's fairly fast, has a fairly high defense, and is normally fairly high HP. And we can see that in her kit there is a lot of things that just scream control and cool champion, but not entirely sure where we're gonna see her. Probably arena can be interesting place. Let's start with an A1. Attacks on an enemy, 50% chance of placing stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, fear, true fear, or petrification on the target for 1 turn. So 1 of these. We're not gonna be able to place 4 of these at once. It says 1. I think, I haven't tested actually, we could test it, but I think it's only going to be able to apply 1 of these, because it's no point applying True Fear, Sleep, and Freeze and Stun all at the same time, because the champion is already going to lose the turn if the freeze goes in. So I'm not sure. It says either this, or this. I mean, we should test it actually. Let's just try some random campaign stage. I just want to put April in the mix, because I mean, if she's able to do more than 1 of these effects on the A1, will be actually quite crazy. But then it will be a bit weird that she's able to do that many things in 1 single skill. I'm probably gonna kill them. No, I'm not gonna kill them. I'm not gonna place anything. How? I mean, there's a 50% chance, but I guess it's 50% chance of placing 1, which is strange. Let's go maybe 1 level harder. Brutal. Stage 5. Shouldn't be too hard either, but it's a bit harder than the other plays. I mean, I don't have books. And that's another good point. 50% chance of placing. I mean, I still have 50% chance. She places 1 only. 1 stun. 1 true fear. She's not gonna. I don't think she's gonna be applying more than 1 at the same time. And the chance is not that high. Only a 50% chance. This is without books. I haven't booked her or anything. There's a bit. It's probably we can confirm that she only applies 1. It would be very crazy if she has the chance to apply more than 1, because always more than 1 is gonna go in. But you can see that it's not as we thought. It's only 1 at a time. 1 stun, or 1 fear, or 1 this, or 1 also. We can confirm that it works more or less as we thought in the beginning. So yeah, and with books that would be 75% chance, so we'll be seeing more debuffs being landed. Then on the A2, Explosive Scoop has 70. This is very interesting. Has 75% chance of stealing all buffs from the target. Also 75% chance of stealing 100% of the target's current turn meter. And then it has 75% chance of placing Nullify and Seal on the target for 2 turns. Now, Seal is a debuff we know. It's a debuff we've seen before, and Carnage the Anarch is able to do it. What Seal does is it kind of blocks the effects of sets and certain masteries. We can read more about it in here. Seal. There are 2 versions, Seal and Master Seal. The Seal debuff blocks effects from gear sets and masteries, except for stats boost granted by artifacts and accessories, as well as masteries that only boost stats like Blade Disciple, Flawless Execution, etc. So that we knew one. And there's a new one, which is Nullify, which will do champions under the Nullify debuff cannot have their skills activated. So this sounds to me like a block active skills. Participate in ally attacks, be granted an extra turn or an instant turn, have their skills cooldowns decreased, have their shields value increased, have their destroyed HP restored, have their HP swapped by allies or by themselves, evade enemy effects or skills, and have their turn meter equalized or their HP balanced. So basically it becomes useless because it can only do A1s. It can only attack with the A1 because the rest of the skills cannot be activated. It can be healed, that can do, but you cannot either give him turn meter, or maybe turn meter, yes, I think you can give him turn meter, but it's not going to be joining any ally attacks. You cannot increase his you cannot have his HP balance, so heal with an HP balance effect. You cannot evade skills, cannot have also turn meter equalize either, cannot increase the value of the shield, cannot have the HP restored, so it's kind of not the most obvious effects, but certain effects that are definitely annoying. So my most interested things is, can you block skills with this thing? And for what I can read, you can, because you cannot have their skills activated, so I guess A1 you can do, but I don't know. Again, we have to test it. And the second part of the skill, it says 25% chance of activating the explosive scoop, so this same skill, on an enemy when they gain an extra turn or an instant turn effect if there are multiple champions. So basically, whenever an enemy takes an extra turn or gets an instant turn, we're gonna automatically attack with that skill, putting the seal and the nullify on that enemy. So interesting to block at least one enemy champ. And finally, we have a 50% increased accuracy on all allies for 2 turns, and also we decrease the turn meters of all enemies in 20%, and we get an extra turn. And since we get an extra turn, we can start controlling with the A1 or the A2. Passively, and this is also more interesting even more, it says whenever an enemy has their skill activated, teams up with allies to attack, gains an extra turn or an instant turn, has their basically everything else it does. So basically, whenever an enemy uses skill, teams up with allies, blah blah blah, all of these things, or decreases all the enemies' turn meter by 10%. Occurs only per skill, and there are multiple champions, so basically every time any of these things try to happen, so basically any of the things that this nullify debuff does, whenever any of this happens, we reduce 10% of all the enemy's turn meter. And whenever an enemy removes, transfer, or decreases the duration of any debuffs to 0, so basically any debuff expires on the enemies, we also decrease the turn meter of all enemies by 25%, which is quite a lot. We have 3 turns cooldown, with books 2 turns cooldown, if there are multiple champions, only 1 act. So interesting, it's a different kind of control that we haven't seen before, a random possible powerful debuff, 2 other powerful debuffs that not sure how it is gonna work. Is Nullify gonna work on bosses? Is Seal normally done? I'm not sure if Seal works on boss. And then an A3 that again, decreasing a lot of turn meter, more turn meter reduction over here. So this is gonna be a champion that we want very fast and with a lot of accuracy. So far, interesting, and with an aura of 28% in Arena. This is April O'Neil. Now let's jump back into the turtles. Barbarians. It's a bit of a strange faction for a turtle, but we have Raphael over here. Many people's favorite, not my favorite. My favorite is Leonardo, but we got Raphael here. As you can see, it's a bit more, we're gonna say barbaric. They try to kind of adequate a bit the skin, putting these kind of bony hairs and so on. So he's gonna be a barbarian for some reason, barbarian turtle. And again, this is also interesting, is a bit on the line as Michelangelo, and it's a bit on the line of the rest of the turtles, and it's like by themselves they're not too dangerous. By themselves is not a bad champion, it's not the best champion either, but as soon as you start accumulating turtles, things start getting interesting. So we start with an A1 that places a block revive if the target is killed. Each critical hit fills this champion's turn meter by 10%. And this block revive on the A1, attention, because this is interesting. Mainly because all the turtles have this. Whenever Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, or Raphael attacks, this champion will join that attack. And joining the attack, if we attack the last, we place block revive, game over on the enemy. So interesting A1. On the A2, attacks all enemies, will ignore shield, block damage if attacking under Berserk. If this champion is not under Berserk placed by himself, the damage inflicted against enemies under shield is increased by 50%. Each critical hit fills turn meter of this champion. So basically it's an anti-shield kind of champion. Ignores here, ignores also block damage if attacking under Berserk, and if not under Berserk, we just deal more damage. So like I said, anti-shield. On the A3, this is the skill that's gonna apply this Berserk. So far, there was only one champion able to apply Berserk, and that was Odin. And basically what Berserk does is that we are able to deal 50% more damage, which is quite a lot. But also at the same time, we're able, because it's a debuff, we're able to receive 50% more damage. So we're more weak, but also more deadly. So it's a dangerous debuff to play with. However, he has kind of the counter to that. Attacks an enemy 3 times. Each hit will ignore 20% of the target's defense, so it's going to be a pretty strong hit, I would say. Places Perfect Veil and Unkillable buff on this champion for 2 turns if the target is killed, which means makes him put an Unkillable. If the target survives, places a Berserk on this champion for 2 turns instead, and this debuff cannot be resisted or blocked, mainly because what I said, Berserk is a debuff at the end of the day, so you cannot clean it or anything. And on the A3, we've seen it, whenever another turtle attacks, we just join, places a Berserk when any champion dies, either ally or enemy. Whenever someone dies, he places the Berserk, and 20% chance of granting an extra turn when attacking under Berserk placed by this champion. So he's able to kind of buff his own damage, deal more damage. If the enemy dies, we just get free buffs. And if we don't kill the enemy, or if we kill the enemy, we're able to apply the Unkillable, which counters the Berserk. So that's a bit the idea behind Raphael. And on the aura, attacks increases ally attack 30% in all battles. So he's a damage dealer. It's a bit more like violent than Michelangelo. Michelangelo is a bit more control and placing debuffs. This is like pure damage. If I'm about to die, I don't care. I'm able to apply an Unkillable. If something dies, I place Berserk, which means I'm gonna hit even harder. So potentially, this is a super glass cannon. It's gonna be hitting pretty hard, but also gonna be pretty weak. And if we have certain counter to pass the Unkillable, then he's gonna go to the floor. But this is Raphael in the Barbarians faction. Let's jump to a normal faction. I would put all the champions in this faction, all these turtles in this faction, even probably wouldn't have been too bad, mainly because this is a faction that needs a lot of champions, but I guess it's some sort of way to kind of divide them so they can help in different faction wars, something like that. Because at the end of the day, they're turtles, they're lizards, so they should be all in the same faction. They all have different backgrounds, but you can see they theme them slightly different. The decoration on the armor and so on is more according to the faction. And also another important detail about Donatello is that he is gonna be the next fusion. Technically this fusion is also starting tomorrow, but we haven't seen any other. Well, there was this event of this kind of fusion warm-up. Donatello is gonna be the fusion, so it's gonna be fairly doable to get him together with Michelangelo. So we're gonna be able to have at least 2 turtles more or less easy to get. We still have 2 turtles harder to get, and April, but April doesn't have any other synergy. Donatello, what is his role? He's a healer. He's a pretty interesting healer and also a skill resetter. On the A1, attacks one enemy, heals all allies by 5%, and activates continuous heal, not bad. On the A2, attacks all enemies, this is the important part, decreases the cooldowns of all allies' skills except by these champions by 2 turns, and these skill cooldowns cannot be decreased by other cooldown decreasing effects. This makes sense, otherwise we'll start in some kind of crazy cycle of void legendary champions resetting each other until forever, and this is a pretty interesting one because it's not the usual reduces 1 turn like we have all the champions, it's 2 turns. So this opens up for certain kind of setups, especially for like Hydra, this kind of thing, depending the champion we have. So this is potentially an interesting one. And places increased speed on all allies for 2 turns, not bad, but this is second part is the most interesting. And on the A3, removes all debuffs from all allies, so pretty interesting. Places a continuous heal and then strengthen on all allies, and fills the allies' turn meters 20%. So solid support. And on the passive, again, same as the rest. Whenever any of the other turtles attack, this one joins to the attack. And this is also pretty powerful. Whenever an ally is about to receive a fatal hit, this champion prevents that ally's death and keeps them alive with 1 HP. Then equalizes all allies' HP. The HP levels of that ally will be brought up to the average level of the team if there are multiple blah blah blah. This is very similar to another powerful champion which we have in Barbarians, which is Freya, that you see her a lot in Arena because has something similar. Prevents the death of an ally, in this case with the highest crit damage, except this champion and keeps them alive with 1 HP. Then in this case heals that ally 20% of their max HP and activates an instant turn. Instead of doing that, what he's doing is like, okay, it's preventing the death, then he's checking the HP of all the other allies and putting them all to the same level. So it's kind of a heal at the same time as a lifesaver. Interesting. And with books every 4th. And finally, an aura of HP in all battles 30%. This is the support champion / healer. It's going to be able to clean our team, buff our team, sadly not revive, but it's going to be mainly continuous heal, strengthen, and like you see, this healing. Together with Michelangelo, we have 2 turtles already if you decide to go for the fusion, and this fusion is going to be a fragment fusion. So hopefully not crazy complicated, because we come from a couple of interesting complicated fusions. And let's jump on the final one. Here we have 2 more. We have the missing turtle, Leonardo, which was my favorite, mainly because of the katanas and the samurai, so I'm guessing that's why they put him on Shadowken. And obviously the bad guy. I'm gonna get rid of the bad guy, just basically because we've seen the skills of this guy. He's gonna be the dungeon boss. The A1 attacks an enemy 3 times, we already know. Every subsequent hit deals hits harder. Then this one, the longer the battle it is, the more annoying, because he's gonna be increasing his own HP, placing leech on us, and also decreasing our own defense, which means like we're going to be every time more and more weak, and he's going to be every time more and more strong, because he's increasing his max HP, and his damage is based on HP, and his HP is not particularly low, so this is an HP damage dealer with potential to deal even hard, to deal even quite long damage. And then he attacks all the enemies before attacking, steal all the buffs, blah blah blah. We saw this. And if he's under veil, so it needs to kind of be under veil for both of these 2 skills. He's able to hit quite hard, the longer the battle the harder, and also decreases all the incoming damage 30%, increases this champion damage 15% for each dead ally. So if we kill all the allies, let's say for example in the dungeon, he's going to be dealing 60% more damage, and we probably don't want that. So I don't know, it's an interesting champion, again Void legendary champion, quite hard to get. We'll see, we don't know yet how we're going to be able to get them, and I'm guessing my bets are some sort of times 10, times 15, some sort of this kind of events. And finally, like I mentioned, Leonardo, the probably most powerful turtle, not only because he's Void, but also because of the kit. The kit is quite insane. The kit is pretty powerful. So if you have Leonardo, if you manage to pull him, you need to go for the rest of the turtles. You're not gonna regret it, because like I said, a single turtle is not too dangerous. The combination all 4 together, watch out. First we're gonna start for, I don't know what skill is more interesting. Let's say for example the passive, so we get rid of the easy skill. Places stone skin on this champion for 1 turn. Each time this champion's HP drops below 50%, so like first of all, free stone skin every time we go down 50% health. And whenever a turtle attacks, we join the attack. This we already knew, and the more turtles, the more hit. The A1 attacks an enemy 2 times. When counter-attacking, we'll repeat this attack against the random enemy, so double hit. And this will ignore 3% of each target's defense for each buff on this champion, and it stacks up to 15%. What makes him interesting is that he's able to apply himself a lot of buffs, so he will place increased defense in everyone, ally protection on everyone except himself, and on himself, unkillable and counterattack, which means like he's going to be receiving hits, and as he receives hits, he counterattacks, and as he counterattacks, we'll be repeating a lot of hits here and to another enemy, and also ignoring the target's diff. I forgot to mention, this is a defense type champion, and is a defense-based damage dealer, so he's going to be scaling off defense in order to deal damage, and probably he's going to be hitting quite hard, because we're about to unveil the craziest skill of all of these champions. And we have faction unity champions, and we also have turtle unity champions. So basically, if you have all the turtles, that's why I was saying if you get Leonardo, go get all the rest of the ones, because they're gonna be worth. And he has one skill that has me very intrigued for the damage, which says attacks all the enemies. The damage inflicted by this skill increases a 5% for each buff on all allies and enemy. And this is what gets me very intrigued, because okay, this is a defense-based champ. Normally they don't hit as much as attack champions, but they can hit quite hard. And they don't hit, normally they hit harder than HP-based champion. If we start accumulating buffs and this is the interesting, not only on allies, but also on enemies. I've seen this before, I've read this before, and I know how hard that hits. And we're talking about the man with the mustache, being here Mr. Taras the Fierce, which on the A3 deals 15%, I mean it's a lot more, for each buff on all allies. But that's the thing, buff on all allies, but Leonardo is doing it 5%, it's a bit lower, but taking all our buffs and all the enemies' buffs. And we know this is smack. This levels you down. This puts you back to level 50. So we know this is a pretty strong hit. And if Donatello has something similar, but also keeping in consideration the enemy's buffs, is a pretty dangerous and powerful hit. Also after that, it says removes all the buffs from the enemies if this attack kills an enemy, and this effect cannot be resisted. So this is not bad, but it's kind of, we hit really hard, but then I strip you all the buffs and I use them to hit you. So interesting, and I think it's going to be quite strong. But on top of that, we have this turtle unit, which the more turtles we have in the team, the more effect it's going to be doing. So if we have one turtle, so mainly himself and someone else, I'm guessing, let's say Michelangelo, because he's free, will ignore 50% of each target's different for each turtle that's on the team. So if there's 3 teams, so, I mean if there's 3 turtles, including himself, so you have all 4, we're going to be ignoring 60% defense, which is crazy. This does not count on this champ. On the second turtle ally, increases the damage dealt by this skill in proportion to this champion's missing HP. So again, the less HP we have, the harder we even hit, and we're going to be hitting hard, I'm telling you that. And the A3 activates this skill whenever an ally's HP drop below 50%, occurs once per skill. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one can activate. And this is what I meant that is crazy, because we're also going to be spamming this skill. He's able to apply his stone skin to himself, join attacks, auto-activate this skill that is going to hit like a train wreck, and if we have all the other turtles, goodbye. I mean, this is the whole combination of everything. So pretty powerful champions. Like I said, it's a shame that we can only get them now, because so for now we have champions that they work good together. Taras Marichka, Sifi Rotos, Cupidos Venus, and in this case we have a times 4. We have 4 champions that are going to work more or less together with passives that are just going to join attack to the champions. Pretty well balanced. I mean, I really like their skills. I think they synergize pretty good. None of them is crazy on their own, but together they're powerful. Together they're interesting. Obviously, the one we're getting for free, Michelangelo, is the worst one of the 3, or sorry, the worst one of the 4, but that was expected. I mean, they're not going to give us for free Leonardo, which is the most powerful, or Shredder. But this is the main problem that I see. Both of these guys, and we kind of don't need them both, but they're both good. They're both Void Shadowkin, and Void champions are hard to get, and especially if they're both unique to this event. I mean, we didn't care much when we had the previous event of this Monster Hunter, because this guy, which was the Void Legendary Champion for the Monster Hunter guys, he's not very good. And he wasn't very good, and he's still not very good. So getting him was a bit of a shame. It's unique. If you didn't get it back then, you're not going to get it now. But in this case, these 2 are powerful. And I kind of want both. I kind of want all of them, but I'm probably not going to get them. But just to keep in mind, turtles are pretty interesting, are pretty good. We also have the dungeon event, which is over here. I did some quick tests. I think I was testing level 18. I mean, you can see that the enemies are not super crazy, are more or less normal. And in the last level, again, they're Shadowkin, there's the Unity faction Shadowkin, so it's a difficult team. But, and I'm going to show you really quick, the strategy that we've been using for now, until now, for this dungeon, which is basically decrease defense, weaken, putting a lot of buffs, and then nuking the enemies with Seer, is going to work the same way. You can see, I'm about to nuke them, and they go down, and now here is 1 versus 1 against the boss. The trick thing here is that the boss, like we mentioned, has a passive, I think is this one, which, because we killed 4 enemies, is dealing us 60% more damage, and that is not fun. So I haven't got the key yet. I don't know what's the easiest, best free-to-play setup, blah blah blah, to do this kind of content. The strategy that we used until now keeps working, but we need to be able to, you know, get rid of the boss quite fast, because at some point, the more he uses the A2, the less defense we have, the more HP he has, and like I mentioned, he's going to be hitting harder and harder and harder, and we're going to eventually go down. So I haven't really tested this enough. I don't know exactly what's the best way to approach this guy, but you can see that he hits pretty hard, and he's going to be hitting harder and harder. So this is just something to keep in mind. Don't worry, there will be a lot of different setups how to do this. Easiest and more free and less free, but this is just so you keep an eye, or you know exactly what kind of enemies we're faced. Other than that, we have the new relics, we have the new sets, we have the relic index over here, the discovery. We had them over here. We also saw them in the previous video, so there's no point going over and over again with this thing. And the same thing with the set, with the gear, and I think I got 2 pieces before. This Chronophage set, we can see here I got 1 piece. In this case, this is how it looks, and it's the same exact thing. But basically, it's this set that it will prevent skills going into cooldown. I'm guessing when an enemy increasing the warrior's skill cooldown. I don't know yet, but I'm guessing is when an enemy is trying to apply to us some sort of cooldown skill. So it's going to be mainly an arena set. But other than that, I think that's all that's coming. A lot of information, I know, long video, sorry about that, but I try to make it as complete as possible. If you make it to the end, please leave a comment. It will make me very happy to know that someone watched the video until the end. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll leave you over here recommended one, and I'll see you on the next. Bye bye.